Chaitanyamayi. Om Anandamayi Chaitanyamayi Satyamayi Parame. Om Tatsavitur Varam Rupam Jyoti Parasya Dhimahi Yanna Satyena Deepaye. These are mantras of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, as you are aware, both given by Sri Aurobindo. Let us now proceed with the study of the book, The Mother, written by Sri Aurobindo. We have discussed how this book was originally released in 1928 when Sri Aurobindo was in his body. We have studied 4 chapters so far. We have discussed how this book combines Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga together. We have also discussed how this book is mantric in its nature and its contents. Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam. The words of the Guru are the mantras of sadhana. And that is true by and large of writings of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and particularly true about this particular writing of Sri Aurobindo. Most of us are grihasthas. We are going through life in various places in the real world, quote unquote. And all of us work for a living. We are interacting with people, developing a set of skills and using those set of skills to earn a livelihood. We have responsibilities towards our spouses, parents and parents-in-law, children, colleagues, friends, extended relatives. For all of us, Karma Yoga becomes very relevant because we cannot withdraw into solitude in a cave for hours of meditation or sit in an ashram and have debates and discussions about various aspects of life. We work, and the beauty of Sanatan Dharma is that every aspect of our action can be turned towards the divine and can be used as a quest for the divine. Chapter 5, also known in the inner circles of Sri Aurobindo ashram as the divine worker, is often used as a name for this chapter. It is the essence of Karma Yoga. The word karma has 2 prominent connotations in Indian spiritual lore. Karma, in its very basic definition, is action. Furthermore, it is also used as a word that represents the consequences of action that are continuing to influence us and our life. Commonly, now that it has been accepted in the Western usage also, karma is often used there negatively to say it is payback time. Well, it says karma, something boomerangs and hits you on the head, that's your karma. But that's only one connotation, as you would see. So we can look at the basic definitions. But if karma means repercussions of action, then is all our life an unfolding of karma? Do we have free will, or is everything predestined? These are some of the discussions one enters when one looks at the general karma theory and philosophy. Mother has a few principles that she lays out in this context. One, everything is not predestined in our life. There is ample scope for our action. As far as destiny is concerned, many of us believe, we want to know our destiny, we want to know our destiny. Mother points out that there is no one single destiny for us. This is a very important point for those who are in the spiritual line. It is confusing at its outset. What do you mean there is no single destiny when we want to find out what happens in our future as a destiny? The mother says it is the level of consciousness from which we act that determines which of the multiple destinies that is possible will play out. When we continuously work towards higher consciousness, then higher destinies unfold in front of us. Sometimes perhaps even newer paths. And when we succumb to a lower consciousness and we act through elements of lower consciousness, then naturally our destiny is not that lofty, and the karmic consequences will also follow. In this chapter, one sees how does one open to a higher destiny. While acting, how do we become an instrument of the divine and remove the ego and desire, because that is essentially what is going to tie us down. Before we jump into this chapter itself, I want to also take this opportunity to discuss a little bit about the broader context of karma in the general Indian philosophical thought. How does karma operate? What is this theory of karma? I'll touch upon a few principles and lay out the canvas, but won't spend too much time delving upon it. Because dharma and karma by themselves are a 2-day, 3-day workshop kind of thing, and I've done that earlier with some seekers and audiences. The broad philosophical framework of karma is very simple. We need to understand just 3 things. First, there is a storehouse or godown, a warehouse, if you will, with our name written on it, which contains a few black bags and a few white bags. Each representing either a joyful and auspicious and good and beautiful set of actions and karmas associated with it, and certain darker and negative and difficult karmas associated with it. So this is a godown that exists somewhere in the subtle world, a warehouse. When we come down into this life, we pick up a few bags and we come down. This is called prarabdha karma. And this word prarabdha is used very commonly in many Indian connotations in different languages, mostly negatively. Oh, it is my prarabdha. That is how it can be. But it's not necessarily negative always. So we come down with a set of karmas to exhaust. And while we live this life of 50, 60, 70 years, we do a lot of actions which also have karmic repercussions for future. So we are also putting some black and white bags into this warehouse. This is called agami karma, sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, agami karma, and the storehouse is called sanchita karma, where we have stored a bundle. As long as we understand there is a warehouse with in-gate and out-gate. When we come into this life, we bring a few bags, come into the out-gate. When we are working through this life, we put a few bags in through the in-gate. So this is the broad framework of karma. And when we bring these bags out, how do these bags look? How do they work out? Some of them are our own inherent tendencies. That is why some people are attracted to some things and repelled towards some things, and otherwise some behavioral patterns. These are all called vasanas, the patterns of our existence. Some people think in a particular way, some people have emotions in a particular way, and it is very predictable. These vasanas put together create our behavior and our nature, our swabhava. And our swabhava and swadharma need to be aligned for us to make spiritual progress. And sometimes we need to refine our swabhava. All these are there, but you should know these terms, Swabhava, Swadharma. And why are we born in a particular family? Obviously, because there is some karma associated with the people around us. And these equations are called runanubandhas. I don't want to throw too much terminology, but I just want to build a framework of how karma operates in Sanatana Dharma. There is a warehouse. We bring down a few bags, and in those bags are contained seeds of our own nature and seeds of our equations with the world and people around us. While we are living this life, we are putting some bags again, and these will yield results in the future. So what is a good way to lead a life? First of all, understand this broader framework, because we are all so wrapped up in our ego and what we like and we don't like that we forget about this broader framework. First, we should understand that there is a broader framework. Second, we should fulfill our dharma, whatever we come down into this world with. A dharma of a son, a dharma of a daughter, a dharma of a husband, a dharma of a wife, a dharma of a parent, a dharma of a friend, whatever we are supposed to do, let us just do it properly. If you think dharma is too big a word, what is right and wrong according to that equation? Fulfill that properly. Dissolve those equations. Sometimes people say, why am I born in this family? Well, we are born in this family because we have certain uncashed checks that people are cashing in this life. A good positive thing for a spiritual person, the first step is exhaust your existing equations by fulfilling your obligations. A second secret is develop equations with people of higher consciousness, people who are ethical, people who are moral, people who are dharmic, people who have come into your life unexpectedly, but in the form of a teacher. He can even be a friend who is younger than you, but he can also be your teacher in the inner sense. Look for these equations and foster good equations so that you dissolve the equations that have been formed at a lower level of consciousness and we move towards higher levels of consciousness. If we do all this, the theory of karma gradually allows us to grow as an individual in a spiritual way. These will help us evolve. Leave the tendencies and behavioral patterns of lower consciousness, move towards higher consciousness. Cultivate friendships and associations of higher consciousness. Dissolve equations of lower consciousness by fulfilling the dharma, not cutting the knots. These are all the things that we need to keep in mind in the broader context of karma. And now we will deep dive into this particular chapter. The first sentence of this chapter itself is worthy of underlining. If you want to be a true doer of divine works, your first aim must be to be totally free from all desire and self-regarding ego. All your life must be an offering and a sacrifice to the Supreme. Your only object in action shall be to serve, to receive, to fulfill, to become a manifesting instrument of the divine Shakti in her works. Well, you will look at me and say, sir, this is written for sannyasis, it's not written for us. What is this business? Why should I think of myself as coming into this life only to serve the divine? I have not to serve the divine. I am supposed to be a man who is earning a living. a woman who is earning a living. What Sri Aurobindo has done here is he has not approached it from the point of view of the individual. He has approached the individual from the point of view of the universe. Everything in this universe is filled with the prana, the universal energy that is operating through us. Each of us comes into this universe. A few elements are put together and a body is created and a soul enters it. And then just as a tree grows and sunlight and chlorophyll are, interacting with each other, energy is created, the tree goes into a blossoming season and you get flowers and fruits. The same principle operates with us as humans. We consume energy in the form of food, in the form of air, in the form of water. We interoperate with the nature around us. We consume a few things, we produce a few things, and there is a constant interchange that is happening. Sri Aurobindo calls this the sacrifice. There is no your prana and my prana. It is one prana that is taking form and casting away one form, being born in another form. And when you think of it like that there is this vast ocean and we are just bubbles in this ocean. Let us read this sentence again. If you want to be a true doer of divine works, your first aim must be totally free from all desire and self-regarding ego. All your life must be an offering and a sacrifice to the Supreme. Your only object in action shall be to serve, to receive, to fulfill, to become a manifesting instrument of the divine Shakti in her works. So it is the divine Shakti that is working in this world, and you are one of the 7 billion human instruments and another few billion other manifestations. So what are the things for humans that stand in the way? They are there in the very first sentence: desire and ego, self-regarding ego. Because everything that we do in this world, the locus of all our action is I, me, and myself. Somewhere, these vasanas, the desires, the inclinations, the preferences, they are flooding this body. The duality of like and dislike that is playing through this body. He is saying, realize that you are just an instrument in this vast universe. Learn that your ego and your desire are these small eddies in this vast river that is flowing continuously. Let go and flow with the river. Let the river carry you. It is the divine Shakti that is working through us, through every animate and inanimate object. So Sri Aurobindo is coming from a very high plane and then he is applying it to us. The mother elaborates, instead of acting for your personal good, you act with the feeling of serving, of receiving the divine force, not even from outside, but the divine force from within you. Opening yourself to the divine force, which will use you for its action, and of fulfilling what that force wants you to fulfill. There is no place for egoism. It is not a matter of giving one thing and receiving another thing in exchange. So, Sri Aurobindo and Mother are explaining this. They are breaking our smallness and opening us into much wider person and giving us a context of operation. And then he is bringing this point that I just said very clearly. You must grow in the divine consciousness till there is no difference between your will and hers, no motive except her impulsion in you, no action that is not her conscious action in you and through you. The divine energy in which these universes are floating, the divine energy in which these atoms are rotating, all of that divine energy is manifesting in you. Open up. Break out of this little egoism of I, me, and myself. Float in this joy, float in this energy that is pervading you, and that is actually there right inside your heart. If you are able to open up and receive that light that is inside of you, let go and operate with that principle, grow in that divine consciousness. This is also where the development of psychic being plays an important role. You will see as we go along, Sri Aurobindo says there is a psychic being in the heart region. No? If you go there and connect, that psychic will guide you in everything, but we will come to that later. But many of us are not at that capacity right now, right? One day I cannot go home and tell my wife, I don't care about my job or salary anymore. I am the worker of the divine, the universal consciousness will take care of me. That time will come, but not right now. Why? Because we are not feeling it naturally. We saw that in the previous chapter also, the divine being the sadhana and the sadhaka. Why should I do any sadhana? Till the point I am identified with this body, I have to work within my limitations. Then Sri Aurobindo says, until you are capable of this complete dynamic identification, you have to regard yourself as a soul and body created for her service. One who does all for her sake. Even if the idea of separate worker is strong in you, and you feel that it is you who do the act, yet it must be done for her. All stress of egoistic choice, all hankering after personal profit, all stipulation of self-regarding desire must be extirpated from the nature. Extirpated means forcefully removed from your nature. So what he's saying is, if you cannot feel that you are this consciousness and she is flowing through you, regard yourself as a soul and body created for her service, one who does all for her sake. Even if the idea of the separate worker is strong in you and you feel that it is you who do the act, yet it must be done for her. Take your time, grow in consciousness, till you are able to feel that you are interconnected with this vast universe and the divine Shakti. What you do is think that you are working for the divine. How do I think, sir? There are many methods. The simplest thing, before we begin the day, we go to the Guru, the God, and we say, listen, I am starting my day. Whatever work I do, it is an offering to you. I may be conscious, I may be unconscious. I may remember you, I may not remember you. It is your job to remember what I do is yours. Simple, no? And at the end of the day, whatever I have done is for you. Accept it as my offering to you. Let there be no personal interest in any of this. Whatever is good for me, let it happen. Whatever is good for everybody, let it happen. Simple prayer. Very, very simple prayer. We have to develop a capacity to gradually open up to the divine. And when we open up to the divine like this, the divine light starts working. And it starts working through us. People asked Mother on this paragraph, how should we work? What should we do? If I have to take a decision, how should I take a decision? Mother gave a very interesting answer. She said, many men, when they are at a point of taking a decision, what they do is first they apply the intellect if they can. This is right, this is wrong, these are the pros, these are the cons, this is the plus, this is the minus, and a rigorous analysis. Some people work with instinct. Oh, I feel like doing this, I will do it. But Mother says when you are acting, there is a better way to act. When an important decision is to be made, go into silence. Go into complete inner silence without any preference. Let there be tranquility, stillness, quiet. And then you will know what is to be done. All the noise will go away and you will know what is the right action to do. It's a very interesting practice when one tries. It goes against everything we have learned. The more important the situation, the more hasty and the more confused and the more nervous and the more agitated we become. Whereas the spiritual path is exactly the opposite. The more important the decision, the more silent you should be. This is how a spiritual worker is supposed to work. If there is too much chaos, close the doors of your room, turn off your phone, do some deep breathing and pray for guidance. No nervousness. Have faith that when you call the divine will help you. So, these are some of the guidelines that Mother has given us. Then she goes on. Sri Aurobindo goes on. There must be no demand for fruit, no seeking for reward. The only fruit for you is the pleasure of the Divine Mother and the fulfillment of her work. Your only reward, a constant progression in the divine consciousness and calm and strength and bliss. The joy of service and the joy of inner growth through works is the sufficient recompense of the selfless worker. This is a very important secret of Karma Yoga, but also it goes contrary to everything we know and everything we do. There must be no seeking for reward. I want this. I want to achieve this goal. No, there must be no seeking for reward. But how do we work? How do we work if there is no goal? How do we work if there is no target? Everyone works with a goal or target. I want to get a promotion. I want to get a raise. I want to get a better job. By a certain age, I want to own a car. By a certain time, I want to own a house. Everything is goal-oriented. How does one work without a goal? Here again, we have guidelines from Sanatan Dharma. Purushartha, the goals of human existence are 4. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. You can have a goal that is governed by Dharma. There's nothing wrong in having a goal. You can have a goal. But that goal should be according to the Dharma, not Adharma. First thing. Second thing, how do we go about achieving that goal? That process also should be guided by the principles of righteousness, by the principles of correctness, ethical and moral. This is one thing. But for a spiritual seeker, there is something more. The pursuit of goal also should be a process or a journey which is based in samatha, equanimity, equality, poise, happiness, joy. The process should not be fear, insecurity, agitation, restlessness, feverishness, and if we don't get it, negativity, accusations. No. One can have goals in life based on righteousness. One can pursue those goals as a part of Karma Yoga by positioning oneself in a point of equanimity, working hard, enhancing our skills, developing new capabilities and capacities, trying to achieve loftier position in life. All this is permitted. But in the process, one should not violate. Winning at any cost is not the principle. For us, both the process and the goal, the means and the end, both have to be spiritual and dharmic. This is the essence of Karma Yoga. We should not get disgruntled, agitated, angry. And honestly, we don't know what is good for us and what is not good for us. Sometimes a goal that we do not achieve can be helpful. There is a story that comes in one of our books. A farmer had a son in a village, and just before the harvesting season, the son goes somewhere, falls and breaks his hand. Oh, the farmer is wailing. This idiot, I told him not to do it. He went and broke his hand. Who will do all the harvesting work? He was supposed to do it. Naturally, something bad has happened. 10 days later, there is a war in the kingdom, and all the king's people are coming, taking all the young people who are capable of fighting the war, they are taking them to the war. But this boy, because his hand is broken, he could not go to war. So the farmer was very happy. Oh, my son has been not taken to the war. He'll at least be alive. See, we cannot see beyond the tip of our nose. So sometimes the goals we don't achieve are as helpful in spiritual sadhana as goals that we achieve. So what is important is the consciousness that we maintain when we set a goal and work towards a goal, and the faith that whatever happens in this pursuit is good for me. Both are important. MP Panditji says, refer to inside and wait for guidance in the course of action if you are confused about action. Similarly about decision making. And try to be a little selfless, not completely based on ego. As we do this work with an inner contact with the divine, with a higher aspiration that the divine should guide us and help us, Sri Aurobindo says, a time will come more and more. A time will come when you will feel more and more that you are the instrument and not the worker. For first, by the force of your devotion, your contact with the Divine Mother will become so intimate that at all times you will have to only concentrate and to put everything into her hands, to have her present guidance, her direct command or impulse, the sure indication of the thing to be done, the way to do it, and the result. As we grow in our consciousness, as we remove the habit of referring everything to our ego, as we work towards removing every action based on our own profit and loss calculations, many of us do that. If we stop doing that, and if we invoke the divine light to work through us, gradually we develop a level of consciousness where we can refer inside. Your contact with the Divine Mother will become so intimate that you only have to put everything into her hands and you will have the guidance. So beautiful. Isn't that what our aspiration should be? The devotion, it is not a fatalistic, philosophical giving up. No. It is a joyous reliance on the divine. It is like a child trusting the parent. Happens, it will come over time. But for that, our mental agitation and vital attachment should be dissolved. Only then we will get the guidance. If we are full of preferences, we will not get the guidance because our vital nature and mental nature will dilute the guidance. Mother gives a very direct answer. Imagine I am in front of you and then ask yourself, would I do this before Mother? Or Mother, without difficulty, without any effort, without something holding me back. Ask yourself, she says, you ask this question, will I do it in front of the mother? This approach, she says, it will never deceive you. If you are sincere, you will know immediately. Something in us tells us, no, I wouldn't be able to do it in front of the Divine Mother. I know it is wrong. This is one, it comes not as a voice, but as a slight discomfort. Another way also for a spiritual sadhak is that if there are two courses of actions, you are choosing one and you really are confused which one to go with, try to go and say, what if I do the other? Observe your nature. Okay, I won't do this because I'm thinking I'll do this. Let me do the other one. Complete lack of preference. It takes time and practice. It also small things and big things. When we trust the divine, even if we make the wrong choice there, the divine will set things right in the long term. Because we are relying on the divine. This is the key of Karma Yoga. It is not whether your choice is right or wrong. It is whether you are relying on the divine or not. The mother is, Sri Aurobindo says, the mother is always with you. Put your faith in her. Remain quiet within and do with that quietude what has to be done. You will become more and more aware of her constant presence. Will feel her action behind yours, and the burden of your work will no longer be heavy on you. So, gives us an idea of how to act. Furthermore, reading, and afterwards, you will realize that the divine Shakti not only inspires and guides, but initiates and carries out your works. All your movements are originated by her. All your powers are hers. Mind, life, and body are conscious and joyful instruments of her action, means for her play, molds for her manifestation in the physical universe. Where did we start this chapter? We started this chapter thinking that we are this little form that is connected to the universal energy, and the energy is playing through us. We don't have that consciousness. So what did we say? We will pray. We will offer everything to the divine. We will remember the divine and offer everything to the divine. We will say, you take care, it is not my decision, it is your decision. We will try to find the divine in our heart and ask for guidance. We will try to listen to that voice very carefully and try to see what the guidance says. As we practice this more and more, we become this vaster self. That is what Sri Aurobindo is saying here. These unknown capacities in you will open up. You become this vast being. You realize that all your movements are originated by her. All your own powers are hers. Mind and life and body are conscious and joyful instruments of her action, means for her play, molds for her manifestation in the physical universe. This is how we grow spiritually. And it is possible to grow in all of these stages within a few years in this life. Many people think Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Upanishads, these are all great thoughts that are to be worried about in the next life. Or maybe after 60. Or maybe these are things we will never achieve in this life, but these are good things to hear. Dear friends, the divine is only as far away from us as we imagine him to be. Living a spiritual life can be done everywhere, provided we accept that it is possible to live these truths. And we commit ourselves to living these truths. It is possible, very much possible. We just have to practice. And even there, if we keep calling the mother, she will help us practice. All your movements are originated by her. All your powers are hers. Mind, life, and body are conscious and joyful instruments. You tell them, Mother, I am unable to do this. Please help me do it. I am unable to remember you throughout the day. Please help me remember you. As we open to the divine light starts coming down and working through us. If we don't do this, our life will be governed by the normal factors of an average human being. What are the normal factors that define the life of a human being? His own ego, his own vasanas and temperamental behavior patterns, his own karma, his own social and family bonds, and his own interactions and runanubandhas of previous lives. But once these lower elements are there and you call a higher light, naturally these lower elements lose their efficacy and we start making spiritual progress. So Sri Aurobindo is giving the macro perspective for us. We are at one level pure energy. We just have to open ourselves to the spiritual light and force of the gods and the gurus that are guiding our destiny, and they can help us replace our energy frequency with a higher energy frequency. Very simple. We have to invite them. We should also stop thinking about I, me and myself and ego, my idea, my emotion. You know how bad I felt that day. You know, he's stealing my ideas. All this I, me and myself has to be slowly let go. And the first sentence is a very powerful sentence here. The divine Shakti not only inspires and guides, but initiates and carries out your works. She puts that thought in you. Why don't you do this? She gives you the knowledge of how to do it. And she guides you through the process of doing it. Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. This is the name of the goddess in Lalita Sahasranam. Ichha Shakti, the will to do something. The vision. Jnana Shakti, the knowledge of doing it, and Kriya Shakti, the process of doing it. The Divine Mother is all the three. Mother has simplified a whole lot our approach to gods and our approach to the divine. For example, we keep saying refer to the mother, become aware of her, become aware of the presence. Somebody said, Mother, all this is very difficult. Give me a simple prayer. She said, okay, I'll write down a prayer for you. And this prayer, I'll just read out one sentence. Every day, we shall begin with the prayer. This is Mother's words. Every day, we shall begin with the prayer. Grant that I may become conscious of your presence. Grant that I may become conscious of your presence. That's it. Simple prayer. Is it really difficult? We are asking the divine, we are asking the God to help us become more conscious of his presence in our lives, in our actions, in our thoughts. Such a simple prayer, no? If we practice it, slowly the light will come. Going further, there can be no more happy condition than this union and dependence. For this step carries you back beyond the borderline from the life of stress and suffering in the ignorance into the truth of your spiritual being, into its deep peace, into its intense ananda. What is our normal life? How do we react under various conditions of working life? I come from a technology field where our stress is very high. Our demands on other people who work for us and the demands on us are very high. Travel is very high. A life of stress and suffering, that is the life of most of us. Slowly, when we transfer the dependence from our own self and our own ego to the divine, what happens? We begin to operate in the truth of our spiritual being, the deep peace and intense ananda. Those of you who are in Auro University, there is even a beautiful meditation center that is coming up, Sri Aurobindo Integral Life Center. This is a good place for recharging yourself. In the middle of your classes, in the middle of all the confusion, 5 minutes, recharge. When I used to work in the corporate world, there are conference rooms which are not booked all the time. Find a small empty conference room, go spend 5 minutes in it. Peaceful. Close your eyes, do a little deep breathing, play a little music if you have the privacy, reconnect, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I had a medical doctor who set a little alarm in his watch in those days, probably the mobile as well now. Reminder, every 4 hours, take a little dip inside yourself and come back. This is how we should move forward in Karma Yoga. These are some of the principles. The insecurity, the need for controlling, sometimes the tamas of not wanting to act, anxiety, panic attacks. People suffer from these things. Choking feeling. All these will slowly go away if we learn to surrender to the divine. Divine where? Divine here. Not up there, not out there, not. It is there inside of us. In every section of this book, Sri Aurobindo says 2 things. One, what to do, and also how to be careful that we don't do something that is wrong. So he says the same thing here also. While we are going through this journey, he says, while this transformation is being done, it is more than ever necessary to keep yourself free from all taint of the perversions of the ego. Let no demand or insistence creep in to stain the purity of the self-giving and the sacrifice. Now, my friends, this applies to all of us. If we learn to flow with the natural formulation of the universe, gradually the amount of resistance we see in life comes down. Many times we struggle because we put our ego into the midst of a flowing river. What happens when you put a stick in the middle of a flowing river? There is a little eddy that forms there. The water starts rotating in and around it. That is our ego. And then we take pride in it. Then we say it is my idea. Then we say, I have told you to do this. Why didn't you do this? These are all silly ways of actually contaminating the flow of the energy. There is a Chinese philosophy called Wu Wei. There is one reference of the mother to Wu Wei in the mother's agenda also. It's a very beautiful philosophy. It says, flow like water. Flow through life like water. Don't battle and resist and struggle and let go. Life is carrying you. Why are you worried? I'll tell you something very fascinating. Take our overall life framework. Let us say some of you are 40, 45. You are in that point in life where mota life का क्या boundary से पता चल गया है. हमको पता है, we'll probably achieve this much, we'll probably, एक boundary बन गया. Do you know 90% of the framework of that is defined based on which family you are born into? 90%, 80% mota. When you are born into a particular family, 80% of what the upper bounds of what you can achieve financially, the upper bounds of what wealth you will gather, the upper bounds of how much your career will progress, the upper bounds of mota idea tab tak ho jata hai at the minute you are born. Now tell me, if that is the case, while coming down onto this planet, did we choose मैं ये family में जाऊं या वो family में जाऊं? अरे ये तो IAS ऑफिसर का फैमिली है, यहाँ जाऊंगे तो बढ़िया हो जाएगा. अरे ये तो बढ़िया multi-billionaire धंधा कर रहे हैं. I want to go into this family so that I can become an Ambani or an Adani. Or I want to go into this family, they have a lot of PhDs, I will become a professor. Oh, I don't want to be born in this family, they have too many debts. I mean, किया है क्या हमने? नहीं किया है ना? But we do know families where I know people who are in their 40s struggling to repay the debts of their earlier generation. I know a person who is in his 80s repaying the debt of his children who are in the 40s. So मोटा हम क्या बनने वाले हैं और जिंदगी में क्या करने वाले हैं is depending on our when we are born. We don't have any control. Point number one. Now ego, we keep saying, I am Srinivas, I want to do this, I want to do that. Actually the name Srinivas also मैंने नहीं चुना है. सही बात है ना? The entire identity with which I lead my life is not my own name. I have not selected it. If I have a puppy and I call it Tommy, it gets used to being called Tommy. It reacts to that thing, Tommy. We are also no different. A name has been given, we react to that name, and we बहुत बड़ा चढ़ा के मान लेते हैं. This is where ignorance comes in. This is where our identity with the body, our identity with a name, our identity with the form, we have gone the wrong track completely. All this need to control, all this has to go away. There must be no attachment to the work, nor the results, no laying down of conditions, no claim to possess the power that should possess you, no pride of the instrument, no vanity and arrogance. Here, two things I'll just briefly mention. Ego also comes in many forms. And one of the most wonderful form of ego is spiritual ego. And I don't mean it in a superficial sort of way. Okay, there is one form of spiritual ego where somebody may feel special because he's in the head of a sannyasi order or he's wearing gerua, other people are not wearing gerua. Unko bhi pranam karte hain, usko to chhod do. There are many people who come into social service who have a strong ego. They are giving up their wealth to do social service, but they can't give up their ego. There are people who come into the spiritual field who associate themselves with a position and title and they can't let go of that title. That title is too important for them. There is yet another form of difficulty where once you make serious spiritual progress, you get spiritual powers inside of you. This is serious sadhana I'm talking about. And even there at the very beginning stages, you start, for example, knowing other people's thoughts. This happens very often when you do some sadhanas and the ego will come in, it will start using it to satisfy the ego. Other people will think, Arey Babaji is able to read my thoughts, he must be a very great guru. And then you say, I'm telling you, you do it like this. This is where we seize the power. The ego seizes the power. Actually, what should we do? We should surrender with a Sakshi Bhav so that we become the instrument. That is what Sri Aurobindo is pointing out. Siddhis are nothing but a nuisance and distraction in any spiritual path, and any guru will tell you this. Anima Siddhe, Lagima Siddhe, Garima Siddhe, Isetya Siddhe, Vasitva Siddhe, Prakamya Siddhe, Hanuman Chalisa mein kehte hain, Ashta Siddhi, Navanidhi ke Data. These are all there, but they are actually distractions and a nuisance. And Sri Aurobindo is warning here, be careful about these things. I know a person in our path who at one point in time, he developed siddhis and what he says will come true. And he is a grihastha like us. He is not somebody who has left everything and all that. But he was obviously working on surrender to the mother in a very big way. Then he went and sat in Pondicherry and prayed at the Samadhi for 30 days, saying, Mother, take this away from me. I don't want this. I don't want this burden. So these are siddhis which come as a part of our growth, but we should also surrender those and do not let the power that should possess you. Nothing in the mind or the vital or physical parts should be suffered to distort to its own use or seize for its own separate, personal and separate satisfaction the greatness of the forces that are acting through you. We have just covered this, right? Let your faith, your sincerity, your purity of aspiration be absolute and pervasive of all planes and layers of the being. Your faith, your sincerity, your purity of aspiration. They should be pervasive of all planes and layers of the being. This is sadhana. What is our sadhana? This is our sadhana. We are not born just because we have faith in a guru doesn't mean that faith is all pervasive yet. Yes, there is a faith in the mind. It is there a little bit in the emotions. It hardly is there in the body. Our sincerity, it is there, but it is there at points of convenience. When it is a lot of inconvenience, we let go of our sincerity sometimes. Our aspiration, we talked about purity. What is purity? Purity means there should be no other influence other than the divine. Can we honestly say that we are leading a life of purity? How many times is our faith impure? Are our thoughts impure? And here he is saying all planes and layers of the being, my vital, mental, physical. This is sadhana. This is where we have to keep praying intensely. As long as we do this sadhana, Sri Aurobindo assures us that whatever weaknesses and difficulties you have, they will slowly get cleaned from the nature. Dhire dhire hoga, safai hoga. Purification is the biggest sadhana required for all of us. Without all of that purification, we can never be even a decent instrument, forget about a perfect instrument of the divine. So we have to work on our faith, deepening our faith, making our faith pervade all planes and layers of the being, our sincerity, our purity, dhire dhire, dhire dhire. And when we do that, all problems will slowly dissolve. Don't get disheartened. That is what Sri Aurobindo and Mother are saying. But again, keep in mind, our ego has to be dissolved, our desires have to be dissolved, our preferences have to be dissolved if we have to be a good instrument. And then we come to the last stage. The last stage of this perfection will come when you are completely identified with the Divine Mother and feel yourself to be no longer another and separate being, instrument, servant, or worker, but truly a child and eternal portion of her consciousness and force. Always, she will be in you and you in her. It will be your constant, simple, and natural experience that all your thought and seeing and action and your very breathing and moving come from her and are hers. You will know and see and feel that you are a person and power formed by her out of herself, put out from her for the play, and yet always safe in her. Being of her being, consciousness of her consciousness, force of her force, ananda of her ananda. This whole paragraph is pure poetry, ecstatic poetry of Sri Aurobindo. One can underline it, one can repeat it, one can by heart it, because this is the essence of Karma Yoga. There are people, almost they look like you and me, who have realized this. There was a nuclear physicist in TIFR who was a sadhaka of Mother in the form of Bala Tripura Sundari and Lalita Tripura Sundari. Scientist of a very great order. I was reading his biography the other day. He built a very big Sri Yantra based temple in Andhra Pradesh. The Divine Mother would talk to him in his meditations continuously, and she would keep asking him and discussing him. And the funny part is, in this stage of his sadhana, it was Bala. Bala is a 8-year-old, 9-year-old girl that comes. And she used to call this devotee as Pitaji. And he would say, Pitaji, mujhe ye khana hai, mujhe ye nivedan lagao. Pitaji, mere liye ye karo. And whatever guidance and direction he needed for his sadhana, she would give it to him. This is not out of the world. Why I'm repeating this is, I don't want all of us who are in this call to think that ye bahut acha pravachan hai, apne liye kuch nahi hai isme. Please don't think like that. These are things you can achieve in your life. These are not outlandish things. Please remember that. And look at this sentence again. Always, she will be in you and you in her. It will be your constant, simple, natural experience that all your thought, seeing, and action come from her. Your very breathing and moving come from her. You will know and see and feel that you are a person and power formed by her out of herself, put out from her for the play, yet always safe in her. Being of her being, consciousness of her consciousness, force of her force, and ananda of her ananda. When this condition is entire and her supramental energies can freely move you, then you will be perfect in the divine works. Knowledge, will, action will become sure, simple, luminous, spontaneous, flawless, an outflow from the Supreme, a divine movement in the eternal. This is again poetry of Sri Aurobindo. To summarize this whole chapter, I will just point out 3 stages. First, when we read all these things, when we listen to these lectures, we develop a mental understanding. Ki bhai, aisa, this is possible. This is very good because this is the first stage, because we are all mental beings. But this knowledge has to be embodied by our heart, by our instinct. We should start believing it. We should start living it. इस ज्ञान का धारण करना जरूरी है. And then from the head to the heart and from the heart to the hands when we work. This is the 3 stages that I want us to be aware. Let us remember this. Knowledge is not enough. When we start manifesting it and when we become the genuine instruments where the heart is understanding the right things, feeling the right way, working with the right attitude, then gradually we become instruments of the Divine Mother, and that is when we become Karma Yogis. So with that, we come to the end of this chapter on Karma Yoga. I think we have taken around 65 minutes today of the talk itself. But I thought it was important to conclude in one session because it is a short enough chapter and the themes kind of come together when we do it without an interruption. So over to you, Nimesh Bhai.
It has been a great journey and going on so well. And I think, see, the participants are getting added even at this last minute. 2 people joined in last 3 minutes. So it is not that, no, 3:30 to 4:30, even if somebody can listen for a minute, he is joining at the last minute. That's the beauty. And
Yes.
we are happy. We have this discourse going on so subtle in a very detailed manner. You are taking out references from all those contexts which Mother and Aurobindo brought out at different reference, at different platforms, like what Mother said in Mother's agenda. You are touching it upon here in this Mother's book. So we are really, really happy. There are a few people who might have opened up their mic. Miraben might wish to say something, or anybody has any question. I'm very happy Sharad Bhai is here with us. Arunji has joined sometimes. So we are lucky to have this discourse going on with her blessings in a very blessed manner. I would like to put it very simply, not taking any other mental reference to it, but we are happy to have a journey of Ananda, Sat Chitan Ananda. Anybody would like to ask any question, add something? Somebody's Ganpati Ramanji who asked last time as well. Please put, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Namaste, Ganpat Ramanji.
You can unmute yourself. Yeah, and you can ask.
Just a moment, sir. Just a moment. Sir, divine evening, sir. I'm Ganapati Raman. So, for the past 8 months and all, I'm facing many problems, particularly health issues, sir. First, in November 2022, I was hospitalized for some stomach problems, sir. I was in 5 days in hospital. After that, I cured, and some after that, my mother has some knee pain. Recently, that is in January month, she suffered fracture, hip bone fracture, and surgeries happen, sir, in Salem and all. So continuously I'm facing some health issues for me, myself, or my mother or father and all. They are aged only, but I'm praying, sir. But again and again I am facing this type of health issues because stress is there, because I'm working in a private company, sir, IT company. So I have to take care of my father and mother as well as my work also, because right now I'm working in work from home, sir. From home I'm working. So daily I'm spending time and reading Adoration of the Mother, sir. Daily some lines I'm reading with the available time and all. So before going to bed at 11 o'clock and all, I'm chanting the Savitri lines. For example, Divine Force Flow, that line I will read.
Yes, yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so can you please advise how to get rid of all these problems? Because I'm also offering prayers, and then and ask mother to forgive all my sins and all, because I am thinking that because of my karma, or I have done unknowingly some mistakes and all. Because of that mistake, I am continuously facing these problems and all. I'm thinking, please advise.
Mhm. Sir, there are two, three things. One is that you first of all, you seem to be doing many of the things that are suggested to keep the contact with the mother from inside, to continue to pray to her, be in touch with her, and ask her to be with us through this journey. That is the important part, remaining in inner contact. The attitude, as far as the difficulties in life, so you specifically talked about health difficulties. Others have some financial difficulties, others could have relationship difficulties. Many of these entanglements of karmic nature, one can pray that they are gradually dissolved to the extent possible by the mother. One subtle suggestion I have for you, or even for others, is do not necessarily look at these things as punishments for a sin. In Sri Aurobindo's path, we look at some of these things that a child make mistakes because at that level of consciousness, that is the impulse to act. And as we grow in our consciousness, what we did at lower levels of consciousness, that loses its grip upon us. This is one of the important differences in the path of mother, where as we grow in consciousness, these bondages that hold us from lower levels of consciousness, they gradually dissipate. That doesn't ease the pain, but we should also be conscious about it, because when we think of it as a tit for tat, then the likelihood is that it becomes a tit for tat. let us offer it to the mother, each circumstance of difficulty that is there. Let us invoke her grace, but at the same time, keep the equanimity with us. Keep that equanimity that whatever is happening in my life, mother is aware of it. It is happening at a point where mother is holding my hand, mother is carrying me, mother is working with me. And I will go through it if that is what she thinks is the best for me. That is the surrender that is required as we go through with a guru. In fact, one of the elderly sadhaks of ashram, they said, when I spoke to them at that point in time, the guidance that they gave was, the fact that we have a guru doesn't mean that our ship will not face the storms. The fact that we have a guru doesn't mean that our ship will not face the storm. But we can be safe in our journey because it is the guru who is guiding our ship. It is the guru who is at the wheel. We are not at the wheel, trying to struggle with the wheel. A similar thought is expressed in one of the dhyana shlokas of Mahabharata also, where Bhishma is compared to the broad banks of Ganges, and Karna, Drona. These are all described as various dangers that Pandavas are facing when they are traveling in the river. But the only reason they are safe is because Krishna is at the wheel. Krishna is the one who is crossing them over. As long as we are crossing over with the Guru guiding us, let us accept whatever else happens and continue to go. Thank you, Ganapat Ramanji.
Yes, Sanjana ma'am, you can.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, I have one subtle question. Many often, when we are contemplating on how we are being with reference to the guidance of Mother and Aurobindo, I always feel this doubt how to differentiate between inertia and our mind creating the disturbance. Whether it is our inertia or it is we are not being able to float, like you gave an example.
When you say inertia, what do you mean?
Inertia meaning inactiveness or not taking an initiative, but in a subtle manner. I mean, for example, if I am doing a job, I get up at certain time, I pack my lunch and I come to the university, take my sessions. These are the things that I'm doing because I'm compelled to do somehow. Or maybe I have put myself in certain design that I have to take certain actions. But beyond that, there are so many things I may take initiatives about. But now when we think of doing new things and take initiatives, it is also a mental process. So at the same time, when we are trying to do something new, we come across a lot of hurdles, and our mind is anxious. Mind is
Right.
like there are a lot of things happening in the mind, and
Right.
at that time it is not soothe and calm, because it is also the part of the process that happens when
Yes.
you initiate new things. So
Very much.
sometimes I'm not able to, sometimes I feel maybe I don't know how to stay calm as mother tells, or maybe sometimes I feel that, see, again, we are mental beings, and sometimes I feel that maybe this is the part of the process, because I'm trying to do something new and different than my routine. So how to differentiate between these two?
So the approach that we see is we have to examine ourselves a little closely. When we are taking up a new initiative, what is the key dot from which this approach has emerged? It could be that I am seeing students in a particular way or patients in a particular way, and if I do this particular thing in this circumstances, it will benefit all of them. This is one possibility. Second, I have certain funding given to me for doing certain things. If I don't do this by March, I'll lose the funding. So I have to immediately do this. Second possibility. Third thing, my colleague has done something and I have to make sure that I also stand out. This is another thing. There are many influences that push us into action. We just have to examine what is the root key source of the origin where it is beginning. I'm just giving examples, multiple ways which spur us into action. Number one, we have to make sure that the origin is pure in that sense. Once the origin is pure, then we have to examine the instruments of action. Sri Aurobindo calls them that: the physical, the vital, and the mental. In the course of implementation, as you said, inevitably there are obstacles, there are problems, there are genuine problems, all of them will come. Are we remaining in the right poise of consciousness? And the right poise of consciousness doesn't mean that we don't react and somebody is doing something unfair and we say, "Theek hai bhai, itna jagda kyun karna hai? Let us not." No, that is not what it is. The right choice of action can be without ego, or action temporarily with ego to overcome problems, but at the same time keeping the larger goal in mind. Because unfortunately, sometimes the language that others understand is the language where we have to communicate. And this is where it becomes very subtle. As a tangential point, I will also tell you, when you work for large organizations, office politics is a part of life. I have learned through difficulty that office politics also comes in two categories. There is offensive and defensive. Defensive office politics is necessary for keeping your job sometimes. But it is also very easy to confuse offensive with defensive. I might say, I am only doing this to safeguard, but actually I might be going and poking somebody in the eye, because I know that unless we perceive life as a zero-sum game, if he wins, I lose, if I win, he loses. No. This is where the starting point should be pure, and the way we approach should be pure, yet you should be ready to do the battle of Mahakali also. So, it is a very beautiful, interesting, difficult, but very, very productive journey from the inner point of view. Set very big goals. A spiritual person should set goals that are bigger than an egoistic person. We did this even in the chapter Money. I want all the people on these calls to become Karodpatis. Because if you have so much money, then Mother's work will get so much money. The divine work will get so much money. So, Anjanaji, my submission to you is take up ambitious projects, do things out of the box, walk on the path less traveled, achieve wonderful milestones, do the battles where it is necessary, hold Mother in your heart continuously. And Savitri, there is that line, no? There is nothing but only the name on the lips. That is the protection. While doing that, achieve all the wonderful things.
It's a wonderful session taken for almost close to 1 hour, 50 minutes. And we continue the journey with next chapters and 4 powers of the Mother. And
next chapter will be actually the last chapter of the book, which is also essentially half the book.
Yeah.
We may take 3-4 sessions, maybe even 5. I don't know. We are not keeping count. We will do the best we can.
Let the journey continue. We don't want to restrict it in numbers. If
Absolutely.
10 becomes 12, we don't want to limit it because it has begun so well. And let us pray, Mother, it takes all of us together to a new level of our prayer.
Surely, Nimesh. Surely, Nimesh.
Thank you. We meet again next Thursday.
Thank you, everyone.